Alright, here we are, Division 2. It's a beautiful sunny day at Pequot Yacht Club on Sunday, January 12th. And I am just about on the starting line. I'm probably a little over the line from where I am. Or the line, if you were in line with me, you'd be behind the line. The line is to my right. So if you're lined up with me, you're behind the line. The line is to my right. I'm hearing the old yelling, up, up, up. So, nice start, good front row, 579, a little behind the line there. So again, same thing, when in doubt, be in the front row. The front row is usually correct. You don't need to be ahead of the front row, but if you're not going to be in the front row, be going faster than the front row is going. So it's okay to be behind the front row if you got more speed, because then you're going to very quickly after the start be ahead of the front row, which is even better. Alright, so we got Dave Smith out in front here, being pushed by Phil Hood.
If you could, can you move the H mark over close to this side of the harbor?
You notice their weights are very still, the boat's very still, there's no rocking going on, bows aren't down, booms are out. If you're broad reaching, you want the boat flat. If you're dead downwind, you want the boat heeled to windward. And here comes the rest of the fleet behind. Downwind, you always want to make sure your wind is clear. So you always want to be looking behind you. Again, to me, I live on my telltales. I couldn't really race out here without telltales on my shroud. All right, I'm assuming that the tide is going out, and that's why everybody is sort of staying over on the right side as much as they can to try and get out of the ebb tide as much as they can. Watching the rounding. Dave did a good job holding off. Looks like Dave Rosso stuck in there for second. Nice swing wide and cut tight on the buoy there. You can see them all coming out like a string of pearls around that leeward mark. And now it's all about trying to stay in the best breeze and the best current. Best current's going to be in the middle, best breeze, who the hell knows. But you can see there's a big righty, all the boats tacking. You can see the way these sailors sit comfortably in the boats. There's Dave up on the edge of his boat. He loves to get on the edge of his boat. He might be a little lighter than Dave Smith, I don't know. There's a lee bow tack. By Phil. So Phil slowly dropped back in this race. He was second at some point. He's got back into fourth, maybe even fifth. So we can have a good discussion of what's going on down there. So here comes a puff about to hit Dave Smith. See how he handles it? It's actually went right behind him. About to hit these boats on the shore here. And you can see Jeff, by staying out here, Jeff Warren, by staying out in the middle with a better current, and it's a northerly, so the puffs come first, he's actually past Phil now. So I think the boats that have been working up that left shore have been sailing in less current, and they're getting the breeze more late than the others. So I think this would have been a good day to stay out more in the middle. And here's Jeff using his starboard advantage. Very nice. Big shift. I'm kind of wondering if Jeff should have stayed on starboard to force Phil back onto port there and then tack away from him. See, Jeff got himself real slow there. So there's a good example. Sometimes you got to sort of know where you are relative to the other boats and use your position to your advantage. Yeah, and there's Jeff in a big righty and really sort of stuck. So,
45.
Watching Mark Foster work his way upwind here.
Oh, capsize.
Oh boy.
Okay, everyone to the dock, the capsize.
Unlucky. Alright, here we are, getting ready to watch the start of the first race. The actual first race got nuked when we had a boat go swim. I am the line. I am right at the piling for number 1. There's about 45 seconds to go, so we can see how the traffic flow here works. Usually the boats near the line are on starboard and the boats on port are below them. So, as I said, I'm on the line, so right now Dave Rosso is near the line and Dan, but the rest of the boats are behind the line by a few lengths. That's not bad. It's okay to stay behind the line by a length or two and then trim in so you're at speed at the start hitting line. And here's Dave Rosso attacking with just a few seconds left. Jay's a little probably dipping too much there. See, he's nowhere near the front row now. See, Dave's up on the front row here. Let's see how they call this one. And no noise means all clear. So there you go. So Dave did a good job handling his boat. And off they go. Alright, picking the action coming into the first mark. It looks like they're going to fetch off the line. That happens sometime in Norley. It's tough to get a beat out of that. But it looks like somehow Dave, I'm not sure how Dave Smith got into lure to Dave Rosso off the starting line. But he did a nice job holding in there. And Round takes the lead again with Dave Rosso right behind him. You gotta be careful when you come around the mark and jibing. You have no rights to jibe around that mark. Unless the only way to sail down the lake is on port, and it looks like it is. So, in this case, with the wind, the course is such that it's only on port tack, then you're allowed to jibe around that mark. If you could go on either tack around the mark, then you don't get permission to jibe. Alright, I'm out of breath. I just sprinted all the way here, but here we are. Halfway down the run, maybe a little more than halfway, and look what happens. The boats behind always catch up to the boats ahead for obvious reasons. One, they're blocking the wind of the boats ahead, especially if they're thinking about it. And two, they're bringing the puffs up from behind. So this is a great race right here. And even Jay has a shot at a big plate lured mark. But right now you should be thinking about how do you defend the inside so the boats behind you don't round inside of you. So that's what you gotta be thinking about. Dave Rosso is staying low, trying to keep his wind clear to try and end around Dave Smith. There's actually another boat down there too, looks like Jeff. Right now you should be talking about the situation, look back and say no overlap, do it well before the zone, talk well before the zone. I hear the discussion going on. Enter the zone with clarity on who the rights and obligations are. If you have to give room, make sure you can do it without having to go outside of that boat. Did Jay go around the mark there? I'm not sure. Dave Rosso doing a nice job of outsailing Dave Smith up the beat here. Noticing the boat angle change. Boat angle doesn't change much in continually changing conditions. That's the whole key. Keep the angle of the forestay constant on the horizon. That's a bloody milk. See how Dave Smith let himself keel over quite a bit there. Smooth it out, Jeff. Smooth it out. Try not to let the boat rock up on its chine like that. Smooth it out and anticipate. If there's a puff coming, get ready to ease maybe a little bit, maybe hike a little bit, maybe feather a little bit. Look at Mark Boston, man. He's got a nice puff off the wall here. Looking ahead, you can see a big left coming. You can see the boats ahead are having to bear off. Now here's a port starboard right here. I don't know if Jeff would have been happier just going right to the edge of the boundary there and then use the Rule 20 to allowing you to call for room to tack it without obstruction. That may have been a better move than tacking and ducking Mark Foster. Let's see how it plays out. Very close finish coming between Jeff in 25 and Mark in 9. Both Jeff got the last puff. Again today, puffs coming from the Pequot wall and better current out here. And Nash coming along, boat under control. Boat looks good. He's got that low lean back profile, low windage. Notice the boom is trimmed in near the corner of the boat there. Looks really good. So he must have just had some tough breaks. So what Dave Rosso is doing, something I like to do when possible, is stand up and look upwind and just get familiar with what it looks like. You know, find the windward mark, make sure you know where it is, see what the wind is doing, have a little conversation with yourself or with another boat with your crew. What are you seeing on the wind? What's the where are the darker spots? When's the next puff coming from? Just so you're comfortable and familiar. Standing up, you can see more, you're a higher angle of the water, you can see more of the differentiation of the shades of water, which tells you more about the breeze. Alright, so here we go. We're watching the start of race 2. It's actually the third start of the day. That's 1 minute. Again, I'm on the line. I am right on the line. And you can see that the fleet is fairly close to the line. That's a good place to be. Dave Ross is checking over his shoulder, see what that line is. But it's good to know, it's good to be near the line. Jeff is a little farther back in here, just got to be careful, especially up under the wall here. Like I'm standing on the end of the pier. For the first 4 or 5 lengths, there's a wind shadow, because of course the wind is blocked by all the boats in the mooring here. Now there's a big right shift, which brings the boats closer to the line, right? Because now they're more on a reach. So now you get the tend on the right, he's going to tend to bring the boats over the line more. So you got to be very careful. Dave looking around, see where the line is. Dan's got to be careful. Jeff Warren, a nice job up to windward. Safe. Gets those puffs first. And off they go. Alright, so here we are near the top mark. Jeff Warren, by that windward position in a northerly, is be able to stay in a high lane. Boats that started down the line, little trouble making up to the mark. They're going to have to tack, and those 2 extra tacks are killer in a Dyer Dhow. So no tacks to 2 tacks is a huge difference. You can see the righty at the mark. Dave Rosso rounding it right there. Big hole at the mark. Probably the best thing for Dave to do is what he's doing. Stay on starboard, extend away from the mark in clear air, then you can make your jibe areas right there, textbook. I totally agree with what he just did there. If he had jibed around the mark, he would have been in the wind shadow of all those boats coming in on starboard, and a momentary hole. When it gets light up there, you really got to keep your speed. Don't get frustrated, don't pinch. Don't make something that it isn't. You just stay on the breeze you got. That's all you can do. You have to be very much in the moment when you race here at Pequot. Alright, picking up the fleet halfway down the first run. Now, we're noticing now this one, much more spread out. The reason for that, there's 2 reasons. One, the windward mark H got moved way to the right, so it was a true windward mark. So most of the boats couldn't make it on 1 tack, and therefore some boats had to tack a couple times, and they get left behind. Secondly, it's not as windy, so the boats behind aren't zooming up in the puffs like they were when it was windier and puffier. However, see what's happening here. Breeze is getting light, boats behind catching up, and suddenly this is called the accordion effect. The accordion effect. It happens when the lead boats sail out of the breeze and the trailers bring it in. So right now 76, looks like Phil defending his inside, well done. 3, I think that's Dan, defending his inside on Dave Smith. Dave should plan to round behind each other. Sailors should round one behind the other and close enough so they can touch the mark. You should be able to touch the buoy as you go around it. One behind the other. Nice smooth turn, a little angle of heel to help the boat turn. Establish your flow and then tack when you want. So good roundings by all those 5 boats right there. Now, the nice thing about leading up the beat is you get the puffs first. There's no catching up from behind. The rich get richer upwind. So you really want to make your move downwind so you're in good shape upwind. But usually the rich get richer, and all the other boats can look ahead and see the leader and see what kind of breeze they have. Great race. So coming in the finish here, Dan Nash has made big gains by staying down low, sailing a shorter distance. Phil has overstood, meaning he could attack back sooner. So Dan just nipped him at the finish. Great job of sailing the shorter distance up that beat. There comes a big puff. Let's see how it handles. How Jeff handles it. Here it comes. There it is. So you want to try and avoid showing your centerboard. Crazy out there. Well done, Dan. Hey, no such thing as luck. Well done, young Dave. Here they come. Started race 3. Dan Nash all the way down to leeward. Next one up, Phil. Then Jay. Then Dave Rossow. All good spacing. Remember, the whole key to a good start is to have a length or 2 of water to leeward of you. That's what you're after. Then it looks like Dan Nash. Here they come from outside the boat. Then Dave Smith. The problem being too far up to windward is it's lighter up under the wall. So the boats down below will probably have better breeze and better current, because remember, it's the strongest going out. So that's why we've seen the 2 low boats, Dan and Phil and whoever is number 9. Who's number 9, Bets? Front page. Front page of your yellow pad. Oh. So those 2 boats kind of legged up, and here comes the breeze up top on the right. So here come these boats. Here's Jeff Warren's been living off this upper end. That's Mark number 9. So will Mark and Phil get across? Here comes Jeff on starboard. It's going to be close. I think they just have it. So the 2 boats off the leeward end live, but it looks like Jeff Warren might be controlling the 2 other boats below him. So let's see how he uses his starboard advantage coming in here. Jeff should make those boats duck them and then tack to windward. So there goes the first one below him. There's not even going to be a duck. Looks like a big righty right to Mark. You see 76? So make sure when you're sailing upwind, you don't spend any time looking at your sail. You know where your sail is. Look at the other boats ahead of you sail. Look at the water. And that'll help you make decisions on whether to stay or tack. Those are the only 2 choices you ever have to make upwind. Do I stay, going fast, or do I tack and go fast? It's pretty binary. You're rounding the mark. You hate to be in a situation where Dan Nash is down low on the mark there. You gotta be careful. Let's see how he does. Looks like he got around okay. Well done. So Jeremy back in action. Good for him. I love that. All right, so picking up the action. The accordion effect is in effect. The first 5 boats are all basically bumper to bumper. Dave Smith has done a great job of sailing himself right back into this pack, and sometimes it's not bad being right behind a pack in front. But you can see with neck and neck right down here. Here's where it's really helpful to have telltales on your shroud, so you know where your wind's coming from. Then you look behind and see if your wind is clear. That's the whole name of the game. Downwind is clear air. All right, so slowly going down. Again, puffs coming from the Pequot shore. Plus, I think that's going to be inside at the mark. So Dave Rosso's got to make a big call. Does he stay down there and hope he can round 3rd? Or does he make a move and get up there and solidify the fact that he's 3rd? So now he's making a move up. he's got to shut off Jeff Warren, and Jeff's got to make a pretty big call here. 3 lengths away, game ends. I don't think Jeff's in there, so you should be talking before you get to the zone. Alright, so here we're going to see all the boats open up and give room. Now Dave Smith, I could have argued, should have conceded down there. You see how he slowed his boat down there by wiggling and got behind that pack? That's where you want to be. You always want to be behind boats you're giving room to, never outside of them. Because you want to round the mark right next to it. Whether you have to give room or not to others does not change the fact that you want to round right next to the mark every time. It's a nice sailing from everybody down there. Good roundings, wide and tight. Boats never slowed down. And now it's a matter of finding that next puff that's going to get you out of Dodge and up the race course. Jeremy. So Jeremy's trying to tell Jeff Warren he doesn't want to be down there because it's the doldrums. I don't disagree. It's very light down there. It's the farthest away from the shore. I'd say your best breeze is middle to middle right. And it's definitely getting lighter. That's usually the case as the tide goes out, because you think about it, the water is getting lower and lower, so the wind is staying at the same level, and so the sailboats are in less and less wind. So usually the lower the tide, the less the wind, higher tide, more wind. There they go, nice reaction to the puff here. It's all about watching the boats ahead of you and making sure you're on the lifted tack. The tack that's taking you closer to where you're trying to go is the lifted tack. Right now, clearly starboard's taking you up the river, and you want to go as long as you can. Here comes Dave Ross on port. He's got a big decision. Does he go underneath and save the duck, knowing that he can use the obstruction later on to call for room to tack, or did he duck those boats and come out and get better breeze and starboard advantage? So that's the decision he had to make. All right, here we are at the finishing line. Phil's done a nice job keeping the lead, but look at Dave Smith work his way up through the fleet. Clear second, shot at first. I think Phil can finish on starboard. Dave Rosso doing a nice job of consolidating the 3rd place. Mark Foster had a nice puff back in here. But it looks like once you get up by the dock or so, you can lay it on starboard from there. So Phil just beats Dave Smith. Question is Dan Nash, in number 3 down there, going to be able to finish without tacking? Now look at Mark Foster with that puff we've seen all day long in the middle. Mark's going to nip Dan. There's 9 yet. All right, so we're picking up the action before race 4. About a minute and a half, a little less than a minute and a half, and we're going to watch some individuals and how they handle their start. Right now you can see Dave Rosso standing up and looking around. Big fan of that. Take a look upwind, just try and see what is going to happen after the start. What's your playing field look like? The wind shifts should not be a mystery. It's all right there in the water, usually. Now this harbor is a little different because the wind is above the harbor and comes down onto it, so you get that swirl effect. But there you can see Phil tacking onto port right now, so most of the fleet on port the final minute. That's not uncommon. Jeff Warren has to be a little careful. He has no speed on, so he's trying to hold his position by staying in the wind and holding the boom out, but you got to get I'm slightly behind the line. They can be slightly to the right if they want. There's Dave Ross on the line. Going back. So Dan Nash is close to the line, so he has to accelerate. Here comes Dave Rosso, roll tacking in a tough spot there. I don't know how Dave's going to break on through there. That's going to be tough. He's breaking through. Dan's got to be a little careful here. I think he's going to be okay though. Look at J-Lip down there, nice clear air, all the way down. Dave Rosso never got through, so I think his last minute jibe there with 30 seconds to go. My rule of thumb is never jibe with 30. Once you're at 30 seconds, you're committed. Just get the best start you can from where you are. And if you don't like where you are, then it's too bad. You got to deal with it. but trying to fine tune, especially in a little boat like a dinghy, Dyer Dhows, it doesn't really accelerate that well. Risky business to try and fidget in the last 30 seconds, and Dave paid the price for that. All right, boat's headed up into H here. It's a big hole up in there, so let's see how the boats play it. There's Jeff Warren. Is that Jeff again on the high side? Jeff's been making a living staying on that high side there. And there it is again, nice big puff. He's got the starboard advantage. The problem is for Jeff is that the boats in the middle of the course, the starting line, have been able to make the line. So he's actually sailed a bit of a longer distance when he has to bear off and get down to the mark. So maybe he should just slide down the line a little bit more to take advantage of that. But in general, I like his idea of staying high in the breeze, one tack into the mark. So basically the boats have rounded in a hole, which is always exciting for the boats behind. Means the leaders can't get away. It's never over out here. There's Jeff Warren staying on starboard. Again, if your boat's moving, I usually go with it. And he's also, there's a nice little dark spot of water right where he is. So he's a nice puff right there. Speed is better than going towards the next mark. It's a trade-off. That's why I say it's fun. You have to make those decisions. But Jeff decided to stay in the puff, and it looks like it. We'll see how it plays out for him. Now, one thing we notice here is Dave Rosso has done a nice job at the end of that beat to round in 5th place. So from his start, he did a good job of keeping his speed, probably minimized tacks, kept a good lane, and there he is. His job obviously is to go fast towards the next mark, keep his wind clear, and be opportunistic. He doesn't have a whole lot more he can do right now. Position-wise, just go fast because he's sort of all by himself there, so that's not a bad place to be. It's fun. It's a beautiful day. All right, we got a great race going down the lead here. Now this is a long course. They're going down to D, all the way back up to H, then down to X and back. So it's a long race. You don't want to do anything early to get you too far behind. Now look at this puff. There's a big puff about to hit this lead group. Let's see how they handle it. A huge puff, left to right on the camera. It's going to hit Dan first. Look at that. It's a big shift. Auto jibe right there. So that means it's obviously a lefty. Putting Dan on starboard. There's Dave's boat heel to windward. Dave, there's Jeff Warren taking the low road, trying to stay out of the current. Tide's pretty low right now. I'm not sure the current's a huge factor right now. So the good news is for Dan is he's not only on starboard, but he's on the inside. So I would say tactically of the first 3 here, Dan's in the strongest position, and he just wants to make sure that he keeps an inside overlap. And if he can force those boats to jibe, he's stronger. So if I'm Dan, I'd be pushing those boats harder towards that obstruction. Nice job of Dave Smith to free himself from being stuck on the outside there. You always want to be behind boats that you're going to round near. Either ahead of them or behind them, but never outside of them. Because you always want to round the mark next to them. All right, so here we go around the corner. So Dan used this inside advantage. Dave Smith, by freeing himself from the outside, took advantage of a mistake by Phil. I'll call it a mistake, I can't really see what happened, but remember Dave was outside of Phil, slowed down behind Phil, and then got on the inside of Phil. So that says to me Phil should have matched Dave's move and defended his inside also as best he could. So that was a nice move by Dave Smith because, boy, every boat you round ahead of that leeward mark, it's gold because upwind the rich get richer. All right, so we see Phil is going way down low on the leeward side of the harbor, the country club side. And it looks like Dave Smith has done a good job of passing Dan Nash. Dave's in a big puff right now. And there's Dan showing a lefty. So Dave should be able to tack and cross here. The boats up to windward are kind of in that hole. So it looks like more wind like we've seen all day, kind of middle of the river. And moving, looking upwind right to left. So Dave doing a nice job of sailing out of that leeward mark. He made a nice move to go from 3rd to 2nd, and then a nice job with boat handling and speed to take the lead off of Dan Nash, who's still right there. And remember, they're going all the way back to H. So you just gotta be patient. You sail fast, you sail the shortest distance, and be opportunistic. Let the other people try to be a little more clever and make their mistakes. Watching the first. So it looks like, again, we've been seeing it all day. Dan Nash stayed too far down to leeward, and it looks like Dave Rossa might have picked him up by staying in the middle. So it's very obvious from off the race course that this middle, statistically, is a better place to be than either too far up or too far down. Phil, any kind of a righty, I mean, Dave right there, that looks like a bit of a left-handed Dave. Dave can call for room to attack at those mooring balls. On port, he's got to keep clear of Phil. He can't just sit on port and foul. So there we go. That's always good news for the leader when the trailer attacks first. Big puff coming. Look at the huge righty. Look at this. Look at this. Dave Rossa knocked off the boat, but he's right back in. Look how shifty it is out here. Anybody ever mentioned shifty out here? And there it is. There's Phil taking advantage of getting the windward. Dave was stuck down the leeward, and it was just a matter of time before that starboard advantage was going to pay all day long. The puffs come to the right. I think that was a mistake by Dave to not tack and get across him when he could. But it looks like Dave Rossa might have taken the lead here by being out in the middle. Nice job of sailing. Here comes a cross. Looks like Dave Rossa out to the cross. Phil. Crosses and attacks in the windward in a very strong controlling position. That's the way to do it. Make somebody duck you and then tack the windward up. It's very strong. So Dave Rossa has taken the lead here, followed by Dave Smith. And it looks like the righties continue up top. I would say there are more righties once you get up to the end of the mooring piling. So once you pass starting line 1, there are more righties. So I would say in general, keep that in mind. You just have to know that in different sectors of the race course, the righties does different things. It's up to you to navigate. Alright, picking up the action downwind. Boat behind has a bit of an advantage because number 1, they get the puffs first, and number 2, they can put their wind shadow on the boat ahead. So here's Dave Smith pushing Dave Rossa out. They're coming down to X. It's a little shorter leg. About length of water between them. So Dave Rossa, a nice 2-length lead, but Dave Smith closing it up. Now they're going to go around this mark to port, I'm pretty sure. In which case Dave Rossa is doing the right thing by defending the inside. So Dave Smith has to make a decision. Look back and decide, do I have space to attack? In other words, do I have time to go up and mess around, try and get on the inside, or am I happy with second? That's a decision you have to make. If you're happy with second, stay there. If you're happy, if you want the first, you're going to have to pass them probably before this mark. It's going to be tough to pass them on the last beat. So it looks like Dave Smith, for whatever reason, has chosen to stay in second, or maybe pass them on the outside here. So that's a big ask.
That's my husband, Dave.
Yay!
No!
Well, there's 2 days ago. Oh, look at big puff coming here. Big puff here. Big puff. Big puff.
Oh no!
Big puff. Good chance to pass. Good chance to pass if your boat handling is tight. The crazier it is, the more chances there are to pass. Look at that. Phil Hood did a great job snaking through there.
Wow.
From fourth, no, I mean Dan Nash, great job snaking through. But that was a huge puff. Great boat handling from the sailors. Oh my gosh. Jay, get back, man, get back. That's not what you want to see, my friend. You don't want to see your bow down low, because then you lose control of your boat and you tip over. I've been there. So look at Phil Hood making the move down the low side here. Any kind of a righty, any kind of lefty, he should get out of there. I think he can cross pretty easily now, but don't mess around. We've seen what's happened. He's either going to try and make it to the finish. I'm going to slide left a little bit so I'm closer to the finishing line. They got to go farther than me to finish. There's Dave Smith up top trying to hold off Dan Nash. There's Dave Ross out down low trying to eke it out. It's going to be Phil Hood, but second's going to be a close one. This is, oh, I wouldn't want to be the race commander this one, I think. See, there it is. The windward boat got that little puff and beat it. So it was Phil Hood, Dave Smith, Dave Rossow, Dan Nash, but a tremendous race. Great boat handling, a huge puff that lured Mark. Anything could have happened, but nothing bad did happen. Except Dan Nash snaked through like a snake charmer there to pass the boat and couldn't hold on to it. Great. There we got Jay Lip bailing. I wonder if that's a function of being too far back in his boat on that run there. And Mark Foster putting a play on here. This is a battle for the last place here in this race. But boy, I tell you what, that's an important race right there, and it's neck and neck. With Mark Foster putting the wheels on, trying to go through. Jay says, forget that bail. He just puffed about to hit Jay. Jay said, enough of that bailing there. And let's get going, because he's fighting for his life here. This is the most important match in this race right now, and they are neck and neck. This could be a tie. We'll see how they call it.
579,
Jay gets it by a nose over Mark, but oh my gosh, that was just a little nose. Great sailing by everybody. All right, here we are, race 4. Another long course, HDHX. Good thing to make sure you know the course before you start. Phil Hood, who won that last race, had no idea what the course was. He thought he was finishing the first time up and had no idea where to go, but the sportsmanship at Pequot is always what we're known for, and Dave Rossow and others told him what the course was, and he went on and won it. So that's the way you play the game. So 30 seconds to go. Again, I'm just behind the line. Jeremy pretty far behind the line here. Here's Jeff Warren making a living up here. I just think he's too close to the wall. It hasn't worked out for him well. About halfway down the line where Dave is and Dan's working a little better. And Jay, I think, is in the best position of all. Jay Lip's in a great position to pull the trigger. They're all late. They're all nowhere near the line. Because I'm behind the line here. So Jay Lip was in a good position, but his awareness of where the line wasn't high enough, and he gave it up. He should have stayed underneath Dave Rossow. You see how Dave Rossow on 45 got a little water below him. That's because Jay gave it to him. Jay could have been right tight under Dave, and that would be Jay's bow that would be popping out in front of Dave right now. As a result, Jay dropped down into the bad air of Dave Smith, and now he's getting sort of run off the race course. So it all has to do with that positioning in the final 10 seconds and awareness of where that line is, using some sort of a line sight. There's buoys down there and then land, so you should be able to get some sort of a transit using those buoys to lure. Oh, and there's that big right shift we've been seeing all day long. Look at that. You can see the problem with Jeff Warren, he's used that strategy. It just doesn't work out because he's too close to the wall, and now he's up again. So, you know, we'll see how it plays out. The moment I said that, you got a big righty and a puff, so that's the problem with talking when you're videoing. Big wind shift at the top. It looks like Dave Rossow or Dave Smith have once again noodled their way out in the front there. They've been doing a great job of controlling their boat. They've both been starting sort of in the middle of the line all day long. Not too much up and not too much down. It's worked out statistically. Meanwhile, Jay Lip is near the back of the pack because he just couldn't hold his lane because of his positioning issue. Jeff Warren not even at the mark yet. So again, too far up towards the wall, and he continues to start in the shadow of the wall. That big righty and puff doesn't come down until about you clear the pilings. So you got to start down the middle, and then hopefully you'll be able to lift it up to the mark. That's what's sort of been happening. Dan Nash right in there, number 3. I think that's Dan, so well done. There's the bailing going on. It's always important to bail. Dry is fast. So there's that accordion effect. Dave Rossow just sailed into a hole. There's really nothing you can do about that, except I would say today, statistically, the breeze comes from Pequot, and there it is, Dave Smith. So I would say if you're sailing along and it looks like you're going to sail into a hole and you got breeze, use the breeze to get up high. Here's another puff right in front of Dave here, and he's going to get it first and get farther ahead. So where Jeff Warren is down there just concerns me. Because statistically today the breeze has come from the Pequot wall. We're still in a northerly, northwester. So I think, and plus you're going to a buoy to leave it to port. So there's really, the only game in staying down low is if you're out of if you're in less current, which earlier today probably, but now it's pretty dead low tide. Number B, if there's a pack in front that are playing with each other like is happening. Look at Jeff go now. So it's a good thing he didn't listen to me. He is flying down there, but that's also a function of the fact that there's a group in front of them that starts to play. They all go high, they play with each other. So that's why I always say, be by yourself on a run as much as you can, you come out ahead. So Jeff Warren, who is exactly where I said shouldn't be, has completely looked like he's passed that whole pack down there, up there, and taken the lead. So there you go. So what do I know? All right, Jeff doing a nice job of consolidating the gains down there. Really nice. So I think that was as much of a function as that there were a lot of boats in front of him that started to go high to defend the inside, and he was a beneficiary of that. He's definitely sailed the shortest distance and taken a nice lead in this race. But the next four, very powerful. Dan Nash on the inside trying to get an overlap. If all the boats are overlapped, the inside boat gets room on all of them. So, sometimes you get one overlap, you're getting 3 or 4 out of it. Here's Dan on starboard. Dave Smith on port. There goes Jeff around the mark in a bit of a lefty. So now we'll see if Dave Ross can keep his bow ahead of Dave Smith here. And there's somebody on the outside down there. That makes me nervous, whoever that is down there. Looks like Phil Hood. You're just going to have to wait. Yeah, Dave Rossell kind of got his bow stuck outside of those guys, and he's forced to take the low road. Here's Jeff on a beam reach on starboard. So guys, get on the starboard right away. Big righty coming. In all the melee. And look at that. Is that Jeremy Frost? Totally scanned around that mark. Jeremy came from way behind, and everyone around in a big righty and was way wide, and Jeremy just went right around on the inside. It's either Jeremy or Phil Hood. It could have been Phil Hood I was looking at. Phil's not having a great one. As they work their way upwind. Look at Jeff Warren just crushing. So now what happened to Jeff Warren here is you got to really watch out for it. He was sailing along. There was a huge righty. You can see it on Dave Smith, just took the lead. Jeff didn't anticipate it and didn't react quick enough to it, and his boat went into irons for a second there. He's a very good sailor and got out of it right away. Oh, yeah. So you just have to, one thing he could have done is seen Dave Smith in that righty and anticipated it, and as soon as it hit him with speed, just tack, and then build speed on starboard and lift. Instead of getting stuck in irons and having to fall off on port, and now you're in the header, blah, 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 blah. So here's a big puff ripping across the harbor. Let's see how they handle it here. Jeff's still in solid second. Try to keep your boats level, guys. You don't want to show the skeg. The deal is, the more you heel, the more you make leeway, the less efficient your centerboard is, the less powerful your rig is, the more boat you're dragging through the water. There's really nothing good about it. So you want to be as level as possible. That's a good race right there. Mark Foster in a big righty here. I encourage Mark to a little less heel. It's a little too much heel there, but look at Mark looking around. He's a very experienced sailor. The nice thing about having a rab out in front is you can see what the wind's going to do. So whatever's going to happen to you is going to happen to Dave Smith first. So you know it's going to, oh, that's a crazy place to tack. That's a crazy place to tack right there. There is no percentage in that, Mr. Hood. You could not tack and duck. So there's no reason to tack and have to tack right back. You just got to be patient in that situation there. Don't force something like that. Mark Foster in a powerful position right here. He's already controlling Phil, and Phil's controlling Dave Rossell, though Dave's got good speed down there. Oh yeah, and there's the penalty. Well played. You like to see people taking the penalties when they foul. And unfortunately, that was just sort of a wrong decision to tack in the first place, but a good decision to spin. He's having a good day, and why risk it? So on the way up to the windward mark, Dave Smith, again, Rich get richer. He's rounding in a hole though, so that's the good news for the guys behind, and that's why you never give up. Pequot, the race is not over till it's over. It's a cliche, but it really applies here. And Dave rounds in a bit of a hole, and everyone else sails into that same hole, so it's sort of a wash. But where's the next puff going to come from? And get your eyes out of the boat. The slower you go, say, where's it going to come from next? Where's it going to come from? So you're at least ready for it. You can be ready for it. All right, here we go down the run. Dave Smith, nice lead, so he should spend quite a bit of time looking back, and he just did, just to see what's going on back there. There's nothing in front of him to really worry about. Here, Jeff Warren, Dave Rosso, and Dan Nash. So they have sort of a three-way going on, but then behind them here, this is a powerful race right there. So probably the good news for for Mark Foster, that's Mark Foster. He doesn't have to worry about the boats behind too much because they're going to mess around with each other. See, now right now, Dave Rosso jibing to the outside. When I mean outside, I'm thinking in terms of which way they're rounding the mark. So Dave choosing for better boat speed on that tack. And look at these guys bringing the puff up. So it's a race to the zone. Look at this. Is Jeff Warren going to defend the inside, or is Dave Rosso going to get the overlap? So that's the whole thing. They should be talking. Look, Dan Nash should get out of there. Dan Nash should just bail way out, get really wide, and plan to go behind this pack. There's a huge pack. Dan has to give room to all of them. It's all on film, guys. If Dan Nash had bailed out, he'd be rounding the mark right now and rolling into attack. So that was Dan's move, to bail out on the outside, and he'd be probably bow out on 25 and a solid chance to beat that whole group. But by staying on the outside, he ends up behind that whole group. So that's just a good example. When you're on the outside, there is nothing for you unless you can round ahead of the group that you're outside of, and that's a big, big ask.
505.
Now listen, look where Phil Hood is in second place, and remember what he did earlier in the race. He did a penalty turn for a foul. So that's just to show you how important it is to play by the rules, to take a penalty when you know you're wrong, and keep on going. And he's in second place. He's going to get a second place in this race. Having made a bad decision to get him in trouble, but then making a good decision to do the penalty and play on. Jeff Warren, nice job. I think this is his best race the whole time. Hanging in there. I think he's got a solid third. Dave Rosso, he and Dan Nash are battling for fourth right now. I'm behind the line.
25.
There's 25 crossing right now, so it'll be Dave, Dan, Mark, and then Jeremy and Jay.